Dictators of countries like Indonesia, who we sell weapons to, yet they are people in East Timor. What do you have to say about Israel, who is Palestinians, who impose martial law? What do you have to say about that? Those are our allies. Why do we sell weapons to these countries? Why do we support them? Why do we Iraq when it commits similar problems?
There are various examples of things that are not right in this world, and the United States is trying. I really am surprised that people feel that it is necessary to defend the rights of Saddam Hussein, when what we ought to be thinking about is how to make sure that he does not use weapons of mass destruction.
I'm not defending him in the least. What I am saying is that there needs to be consistent application of U.S. foreign policy. We cannot support people who are committing the same violations because they are political allies. That is not acceptable. We cannot violate UN resolutions when it is convenient to us. You're not answering my question, Madam Albright.
I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it? I think this is a very hard choice, but the price, we think the price is worth it.
They attack us because we've been over there. We've been bombing Iraq for 10 years. We've been in the Middle East. I think Reagan was right. We don't understand the irrationality of Middle Eastern politics. So right now we're building an embassy in Iraq that's bigger than the Vatican. We're building 14 permanent bases. What would we say here if China was doing this in our country or in the Gulf of Mexico? We would be objecting. We need to look at what we do from the perspective of what would happen if somebody else did it to us.
Obviously, we'd like to see a regime change, at least I would, in Iran, just as I would like to see in Iraq. The question now is a practical question. What is the best place to proceed? It's not a question of whether Iraq's regime should be taken out, but when should it take a long time. On the other hand, question of whether if you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region. And I think that people sitting right next door in Iran, young people, and many others will say, the time of such regimes, of such despots, is gone. There is a new age, something new.
It just never ends. But the key is a lasting peace. If you have a lasting peace, first thing you have to ask, do they both want to make it? I have a real question as to whether or not both sides wants to make it. I have a real question as to one side in particular, whether or not they want to make it. Well, I don't want to say that right now. But honestly, to know that and to get into that, you're really going to have to be dealing with the people, the few people at top that are going to make that decision. But I think if we get the right leadership, I think we have tremendous potential. In my opinion, if Israel wants to make a deal, I think a deal could be made. I think it will be made at some point. I think if I get elected, that would be something I'd really like to do, because so much death, so much turmoil, so much hatred, that would be, to me, a great achievement. As a single achievement, that would be a really great achievement. I think a lot is going to do with Israel. And look, it's going to have to do with both sides, but a lot will have to do with Israel and whether or not Israel wants to make the deal, whether or not Israel's willing to sacrifice certain things. They may not be, and I understand that, and I'm okay with that. But then you're just not going to have a deal. So we'll see what happens. I'll let you know in about...
And many Israelis don't want to know what is going on inside Palestine. It's a terrible human rights persecution that far transcends what any outsider would imagine. And there are powerful political forces in America that prevents any objective analysis of the problem in the Holy Land. I think it's accurate to say that not a single member of Congress with whom I'm familiar would possibly speak out and call for Israel to withdraw to their legal boundaries or to publicize the plight of the Palestinians. And that is added onto by the very effective work of the American-Israeli group called AIPAC, which is performing its completely legitimate task of convincing Americans to support the policies of the Israeli government. And AIPAC is not dedicated to peace. They're dedicated to inducing the maximum support in America, in the White House, in the Congress, and in the public media.
Fail to adapt. And the fact that they can fail and die is what provides the incentive to survive. But governments can't die. So we need to find other incentives for bureaucracy to adapt and improve. The technology revolution has transformed organizations across the private sector. But not ours, not fully, not yet. We are, as they say, tangled in our anchor chain. Our financial systems are decades old. According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions. We cannot share information from floor to floor in this building because it's stored on dozens of different technological systems that are inaccessible or incompatible.
Where do they go? I had one interesting conversation with Zaganos, this is repeated with Levin. They talked about they don't want this NATO expansion, they know it's not in their security interests, and on, and they said, well, and if you do that, we may have to look to China. And I couldn't help using the colloquial expression from my state by saying to Zaganos, lots of luck in your senior year. Good luck. And if that doesn't work, try Iran. I'm serious. I said that to them, and these were, and they know, I knew, they knew, everybody knows that is not an option. And everybody knows, every one of those leaders acknowledges and needs, and they resent it. But they need to look west. And the question is, well, this is designed to completely shut them out, but not in terms of whether or not it's direct military security threat. Whenever you choose a target that warrants inspection, and you are denied, that ipso facto, at that moment, the only way your position can be satisfied or sustained is if the UN Security Council or the United States, acting unilaterally, uses force to guarantee access. Is not that true?
Yes, sir.
Now, that means that you get to choose the time and place when we would use force, if we use force.
No, sir.
Of course you do. If you choose the site and it's denied.
And we coordinate with the member states to include the United States.
Exactly.
And prior to us going in, we had their agreement that this indeed is an inspection worth doing.
Okay, inspection worth doing, everybody's agreed it's worth doing, and it gets stopped.
Yes, sir.
At that moment, we're an automatic pilot as far as you're concerned. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. Now, I respect that. But now, it seems to me the Secretary of State might have a slightly different problem. Secretary of State might be sitting there and saying, now look over there on that side. Now, I remember so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, and the 12 people on this side, they're all the ones that said they didn't want to use force. Now, I'm going to have to go tell the President now that we should, or Secretary Cohen, unleash whatever it takes to get it done. And our military assessment is the same as the Major's. The Major's assessment is, privately held but publicly acknowledged later, that airstrikes alone aren't going to do this. Saddam's not going to cave on this. So, now here's the deal. I recommended the President have at it and let the chips fall where they may. A reasonable position for the Secretary of Defense, for the Secretary of State to take. But I respectfully suggest, Major, they have a responsibility slightly above your pay grade. Slightly above your pay grade. To decide whether or not to take the nation to war alone. Or to take the nation to war partway. Or to take the nation to war halfway. That's a real tough decision. That's why they get paid the big bucks. That's why they get the limos and you don't. I mean this sincerely. I'm not trying to be flip. Because I think, and that's why I said at the outset, the reason why I'm glad you did what you did, we should come to our milk. We should make a decision. But in terms of whether the Secretary of State has no more to consider than you do as the arms inspector, you didn't get in, didn't get my job done, get me in. Period. You made the deal, right? That's the deal. A deal's a deal. Get me in. Scott Ritter, I'm ready to go. It's not how it works. Now, maybe it should work that way. But wouldn't you acknowledge that if you were President of the United States or Secretary of State, you'd sit there and say, now, okay, old Scotty boy didn't get in. We said he should get in. We want him to get in. It's important that he does get in. They're not going to let him in, so what are we going to do now? We know that France and Russia aren't going to be with us. We're quite confident China's not. We've already run those traps. They're not there. We're not sure where the United States Senate is, but have at it, boys. Go get them. And by the way, Scott and the boys say air power's not enough. I think it's a legitimate debate, Major. I think it's a legitimate debate. But I don't think we should be putting it in the context of you have somebody up there at state saying, look, how can we weasel out of this agreement? We want to let this guy out there hanging. We're not this. It's a very practical political decision. Same kind of decision General Powell made. Same kind of decision President Bush made. Every president, every Secretary of State has to do it. Like I said, they get paid more than you. Their job's a hell of a lot more complicated than yours. They may have made the wrong decision, and you brought it to light. We should address it. We should say straight up where we are, and we should do it. And for that, I thank you. But it's above your pay grade. I yield for
it. In the immediate aftermath of 9/11, we did some things that were wrong. We did a whole lot of things that were right.
We've taken control of the oil in the Middle East, the oil that we're talking about.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right?
What do you have to say about dictators of countries?
Well, I guess we're here.
What happened?
Dude, the restream sucks. I don't know. Dude, I tried activating something in the background and it just cut the intro short.
Why did you activate something? Now we're just naked in front of the world.
Do you want to play it again? I'll play it again.
No, we're fine. No, we're already live.
In the immediate aftermath of 9/11, we did some things that were wrong. We did a whole lot of things that were right.
We've taken control of the oil in the Middle East, the oil that we're talking about.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create.
We choose truth over facts.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. The foothills of the Himalayas.
Television. We are fighting Satan himself.
Journalists, ask them the question. Ask them. Ask them. Ask them.
Agreed that everybody once they inside they should. Anyway, my time's up. America's dead.
Do you feel it now?
Hi again, everybody. Oh my God. Okay.
Jesus.
Well, we're back again after the intro again. So, hey everybody,
yeah,
welcome
to a little bit of technical difficulties, but you know we're rocking it. We're rocking it.
That was all Greg, by the way. I don't do any of this. But anyway, welcome to Politically Homeless.
How was your guys' Thursday?
Let's see. I shit posted a lot, and that was about it. And obviously wage slaving all day. So I am your host, as always, Snow Himbo. This is my compatriot, Big Mad Crab, and we have the lovely Brook Hines here. Say hello.
Hi there. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So, yeah, we can hear you great. Your audio is better than mine.
What's your handle on Twitter again? It's just Brook Hines, right?
At Nashville Brook.
Okay.
At Nashville _Brook.
But you're not in Nashville.
Not anymore.
Okay.
I just kept the screen name.
Yeah.
Or the handle.
That would actually be really bad if you were in Nashville. Nashville's kind of destroyed right now.
What?
Is it?
What happened?
Oh, wait, no, that's Tennessee. I was thinking North Carolina. So,
Isn't Nashville in
I'm
Tennessee?
see, I'm retarded. I'm just retarded.
No, you're right. Nashville's in Tennessee, and they're the place where I used to live in Tennessee was right next door to Irwin, where those 6 people died. So we were on the other side of the mountain from Asheville. As a matter of fact, we used to go to Asheville all the time for civilization because it felt civilized over there. It didn't over on the Tennessee side. No, but it's horrible.
Yeah, I can't believe I knew that. I don't even live in this country. I'm up in Maple Land, so But yeah, thanks for joining us. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and anything you got going on?
Okay, so the little bit about myself is that I was a publisher of an alt weekly newspaper for a number of years, and this was right when journalism was starting to change. So the reason why I did that was because I couldn't get a job in reporting. Like, they just weren't available in the 90s, especially in smaller cities. And so then after that, I did advertising for many years. And then after Occupy, I was
advertising.
Yeah, right, exactly. PR. After Occupy, I did PR for our Occupy here in Orlando, and I got recruited by a progressive organization here. So I was like, hell yeah, get me out of marketing. I want to be, doing political work again, anything relevant. And so that's kind of how I wound up here. And what I'm doing now is I do a little bit of political consulting work and a little bit of regular just client work. So I do some paralegal stuff. And so that's just like pays the bills so that I can shitpost and watercolor basically, and write from now and again on my Substack, which is at brookhines.com. And I've got a few pieces that are in the works, and I keep doing these big picture pieces, and I keep waiting until I've got it right, and I'm just not going to get it right. I just got to publish them. You know what it is.
Yeah, I procrastinate a lot too. It's bad.
Yeah,
I'm working on an EP. Like, it's literally just 4 songs, and I'm like almost done. But like, I mean, it's yeah.
I do this really cool thing where I get an idea in my head, and I'm like really dead set on putting the idea into motion, and then I forget about the idea, and it comes back to me in like 6 months. It's fun. I love ADHD. Yeah. It's the best.
If we could just have a little bit of OCD along with the ADHD, then maybe something would.
Oh, it would be perfect. Well, the problem is you have all the negative effects of ADHD without any of the perks. Because like, if you put a painting up and it's slightly off, you're gonna lose your mind. At least I do. I'm like, that has to be it's messing up my spicy brain. But like, we don't get any of the positives. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. The scale's just in one direction. It's not fair.
Right. I want to be OCD about my work, not about whether or not the planes are going to fall out of the sky. Like I'm always OCD about like, things that are not helpful at all.
Oh God, I had to explain it. To our department today. So we use Slack. It's one of the work communication tools.
I use that.
Familiar.
Yeah. So that is the worst thing on earth for people with ADHD, because if you're trying to fucking focus and the Slack goes off, it's like it's the I don't know what it is about the sound. They like scientifically designed the sound to trigger a squirreling event. So the second you hear the sound, you just Pavlovian go to Slack, and then I will just forget what I'm doing sometimes, and I'm just helping a bunch of people, and then I'm like, I was in the middle of something really important. Oh well. And then a day later, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't do that. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. We've got one hell of a show for all y'all.
Let's get started with some Benny here.
Love him.
This came out 4 hours ago. Some breaking news 4 hours ago. This is the only piece that's relevant, by the way. Ben Shapiro, literally, he doesn't think that he's a white guy. I've never seen, and these are the same people that are screaming DEI, racial bias, anti-white.
Dude,
now when it's not convenient, he's not white anymore. Watch.
Dude.
Whether Jews count as white or not has been sort of an object of debate for quite a while. We do. Okay.
You do.
So, I mean, it depends according to whom, and that's a pretty recent development. Okay, so
basically everyone. It's a religion.
Judaism.
Do you not agree that you are a white man?
I mean, I think that it depends on the context in which you're discussing it.
So what are you, Ben? Are you not a white guy?
I mean, I'm a man of Jewish ethnicity, which is sometimes grouped with white and sometimes not. I mean, that's the more accurate way to put it. But when we're talking about
grouped with
Jews, who are which is an ethnicity. I mean,
so you're not white at all.
I mean, again, it depends who's doing the grouping and how. I've seen Jews grouped with white and Jews grouped with not white. Are we just pretending that doesn't exist? That's a reality. However, as far as your generalized point, which is that
it depends on the context.
Dude, like, okay, I'm just looking at the tone of his skin versus my skin. My descendants is from fucking. My descendants is from fucking Norway, and he's whiter. I didn't think that was possible. My veins are translucent, for fuck's sake.
Which, by the way,
he's whiter than me.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro, he's an Ashkenazi Jew. That's the whitest population. That's from Europe. That's European.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's what always confused me, though. And I'm nowhere near an expert on this, but that's what always confused me about the whole Jewish thing. It's like you're a religion, but you're also a race, but we can't really pin down the race. It's a bunch of different races, and then it goes back to the religion thing, and I'm just like, I mean, you can't really apply that to any other religion.
Ethnicities can be white, like Irish people are an ethnicity, and people from Northern Europe they all have their cultures and ethnicities and stuff. So I get that, but it doesn't make him. He's saying he's non-white. That because he has an ethnicity, he's non-white, which is just batshit. Like it's like not understanding words or something. And I love the women's reactions. Oh my god.
Yeah. They're just like, is this guy okay? Like, does he need medication?
It's actually kind of crazy.
I mean, I will say that his eyebrows are definitely an ethnicity we haven't discovered yet. Because I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to Benny there. Because those weren't even, that wasn't even like, I remember when he didn't have the strange, like Minecraft shit that's going on in his eyebrows. He woke up one day and was like, I need this for some reason. I don't even know.
Do you guys know what those red flags were about? Was it people saying that's a red flag and maybe stop saying that? Because that's kind of how I interpret it. I'm sure it's a whatever show they're on. It's their convention for,
No, it's Jubilee. It's like a meme. It's like a clip, like farm. That's what they do.
Oh, is that the same show where they get like a bunch of like Trump supporters to fight with a bunch of like
it's like
KAMALA supporters?
It's like find the secret black transgender. That's what it is. No, it's shit like that.
Yeah,
it's like in real life Tinder or something like that. Stupid bullshit.
It's basically like we're gonna get a bunch of people diametrically opposed. There we go. We're gonna get a bunch of people diametrically opposed to just yell at each other. That's the content. a lot of bread tubers
The
like
context.
swear by Jubilee. They're just like, we're gonna cover this for 8 hours, and I'm like,
Wow.
have fun.
Yeah, no way.
All right.
No way. Yeah, let's move on to Donald Trump. This also breaking news came out yesterday. Stacey Williams, so a model from the 1990s, says that she was groped by Trump.
In what was a twisted game by Jeffrey Epstein.
Twisted game.
So not like Connect 4 or Risk, guys. It's a twisted game. Now, I should have said Twister. That would have been way better.
Yeah.
Missed
Yeah,
opportunity.
Wow.
Himbo.
Stacey
What are you
Williams
doing?
was a professional model in the 1990s. First, she first met Trump at a 1992 Christmas party. After being introduced by Epstein, who believed it was a good friend of the then New York real estate developer, Williams said Epstein was interested in her and two casually dated for a period of then he and Donald were really good friends, spent a lot of time together.
Did that say that they casually dated?
No.
Oh, okay.
Wait, who casually dated Epstein and Trump?
She's saying that he groped her at a Christmas party.
Okay.
Okay.
And so, Caroline Leavitt, these accusations made by former activists for Barack Obama and announced on the Harris campaign call 2 weeks before the election is unequivocally false.
Hey.
So, how much is this true? Well, let's find out.
I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, and my senior year of high school, I was discovered at the mall, because where else were we all hanging out in the late 80s, by a former model. And that led me to New York and Europe and a long, lucrative career as a model. And in 1992, my agent invited me to a dinner to a restaurant on the Upper East Side of New York. And there were other models there and the usual men hangers-on at this dinner. And one of the men who was sitting at this table was Jeffrey Epstein. And I had never heard of him or anything, but we got to know each other and we talked a lot about Clinton and Gore. And I enjoyed the fact that he was politically engaged and wasn't infantilizing me and talking to me about that. The next time that I saw Jeffrey was a few months later in December of 92 at Donald Trump's Plaza Hotel Christmas party. And it became very clear then that he and Donald were really, really good friends and spent a lot of time together. After that, Jeffrey Epstein expressed a lot of interest in me and we started seeing each other. When Jeffrey and I would talk, he mentioned Trump frequently. He was clearly a close friend and they were spending a lot of time together. Late winter, early spring of 93, I was on a walk with Jeffrey from his brownstone on the Upper East Side down Fifth Avenue when Jeffrey looked at me and said, let's go stop by and see Trump. And so we went into Trump Tower and went up the elevator, and moments later, Trump was greeting us and he pulled me into him and started groping me. He put his hands all over my breasts, my waist, my butt. And I froze. And I froze because I was so deeply confused about what was happening because the hands were moving all over me. Yet these two men were like smiling at one another and continuing on in their conversation. Jeffrey and I left, and I got into the elevator with him, and I felt this, he didn't look at me. He didn't speak to me. And I felt this seething rage around him. His whole energy shifted. And when we got down to the sidewalk, he looked at me and started just berating me. He kept saying, why did you let him do that? Why did you let him put his hands all over you? What? And he made me feel so disgusting. And I remember at that moment being so utterly confused. Number one, I thought, well, yeah, why did I let him do that? And then I was confused because, well, but why is Jeffrey mad? Because he's the one that took me up there. And I was also confused because I was someone who really prided myself as being sort of one of the tough models who was problematic because I fought back against the predators in the industry. I defended fellow models on the streets of Paris when we would be grabbed or harassed. So how did I let that happen? I felt so humiliated and so sick to my stomach and was so upset. And as I absorbed what happened a few minutes later, I felt like that was some sort of sick bet or game between the two of them. I was rolled in there like a piece of meat for some kind of challenge or twisted game. And I felt horrendous. And not long after that, a postcard of Mar-a-Lago was couriered to my agent. And there was a personal message on the back from Donald Trump. I still have that postcard, and it makes me sick to look at it. And it takes me back to that feeling of confusion and being frozen and humiliated. And that is why I am here tonight. I figured it was time to share this, and I'm ready to win this election. The thought of that monster being back in the White House is my absolute worst nightmare.
Yeah. Epstein was also not there since 1996. I don't know how much you guys. I mean, he was definitely involved. There's not, there's definitely things that he's done that are being whipped up, but
I mean, it's kind of catch-22 in my opinion, because the question everybody always has when these things come out is like, why did you wait until this moment to do this? Yeah, like Angel's saying, right before the election, not a coincidence. But again, it's like maybe they're doing it for the election. Maybe they're like, I have to speak out about this now, even if it's uncomfortable. And I will just kind of say that, I don't like the vibe a lot of people. I'm not talking about the MAGA crew. I know they're going to just say anything that is negative to Trump is fake news. At this point, these people, he could eat, I've said this in a tweet before, he could literally eat like a bunch of kids on live TV, and the MAGA people would be like, it's a deep fake. I don't believe it, brother. It's a CGF or whatever. Like you're not going to convince these people. No amount of evidence will at this point. But that being said, I don't, it is an argument too of like, well, everybody asks like, why don't they speak out? And it's like, well, because every time they try and speak out, there's a bunch of men that tell them it didn't happen or they're lying or something, which I think is deeply shitty too.
Well, yeah. It's also shitty for women who have been through it. It's shitty for it to be used politically at all. Like as this close to the election, when there's and it's not that we don't like to see questions raised about these things. It's that you want, if someone's going to make this allegation, you want them, by golly, to be telling the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Otherwise, you're taking away from other survivors of sexual assault, and and they get pissed. And so, you know, I always think back to Tara Reid. Like, she came out so early. She came out, you know, on the heels of with Me Too, doing their
that
thing.
old man's gonna die with no consequences. It's actually horrible. It's terrible.
Yeah. And she was treated so awful. She's in Russia now, so that's not going to happen to this person. And you mentioned that something was wrong with the dates there because Epstein didn't live in the brownstone until 96. She said it was 93. It could have been that he was living someplace else and, you know, fancy down there.
It's entirely possible.
And then the other thing that I think is interesting about this is that the Guardian reporter, Lucy Osborne, who wrote this article, also broke the sexual assault news item in 2020 about the person. Her name is Amy Doris, who Trump had allegedly sexually assaulted at the 1997 U.S. Open. And so it's like, I don't think Lucy Osborne, the writer at The Guardian, is on the sexual assault beat. I think her phone number is one that political operatives call when they have this kind of story that they want to get out there. So I mean, shoot, you know, if Tara Reid had on someone's speed dial, you know, somebody important at Washington Post or whatever, maybe her story would have gotten out. It just, all of this just seems like, blah, you know, like, I don't know. Just as a woman, I don't like the way that this feels, and I don't like the way that it's going. There's also this other bit about, and by the way, I'm referencing a post that Technofog put up a little while ago before we came on air, and this particular Stacey Williams was part of a group called Clean Tech for Obama, which was very closely tied in with the Obama administration and did a lot of fundraising. And she apparently, with the help of Stacey Williams, they raised $2 million for then candidate Barack Obama in 2008. And Obama paid them back. Members of the group would go on to join the Obama administration and influence the distribution of billions of dollars back to their friends, industries, and former companies. So there's these relationships, and there's this kind of network with this, that, and the timing that I don't know. Just, you know, as a woman who's dealt with this, I'm just sort of like, I'm gonna need a little. I don't know. I just. It's not that I don't believe her. It's just that, like, why didn't do it? Why now? Why are you somebody with all of these network affiliations? And why is it the same reporter on the, you know, the Oppo desk, the Trump Oppo desk from 2020? You know, it just feels sleazy.
No, I get it.
I don't know if
definitely
it's fake news or not, but Ghislaine Maxwell is apparently like gonna throw all the beans on Trump. I don't know, but
well, she better get to it.
Yeah.
So
here's the
article,
thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. My point with all this is that I don't think it's possible to, like, have an October surprise, because this is essentially what this is, I imagine. I don't think it's possible to have an October surprise work on someone like Trump. Even if she releases the most damning evidence in the world against this man, it's not going to change any of his supporters' minds. If they're not, like, if after all the shit this guy's done at this point, they still somehow have hallucinated him into some kind of god figure, like, it doesn't matter. None of this is gonna work. they're just going to call it fake, or they're going to say it's some sort of deep state thing, or they're going to attack the credibility of whatever person. In this case, Maxwell, they'll say, oh, the feds got to her, they X, Y, and Z. I just really don't think at this point, like, anything's going to convince.
JD Vance came out today and he said he was going to release the Epstein list. They're all like, why are they so thrilled of running on this, like, oh, we're going to drop the Epstein list, which never happened and never is going to happen.
Why didn't he do it the first time? He's not going to do that shit.
Yeah, he's not going to do it.
Of course not. Of course not.
And there's people who do believe that he's going to do it, and like that's why, like, I made this a while ago. Like, when was this? Okay, on the 9th. But like, this is what Elon has, Trump, extraordinaire. He's one of the biggest donors at this point. But
I think part of why Kamala's getting so much support is that if Trump wins, that Epstein client list is going to become public.
Yes.
And some of those billionaires behind Kamala are terrified of that outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of those billionaires,
Yes. And Gates.
Yeah.
Bill Gates.
I only ask that because you just look at them and you're like, that's a nervous person right there. I don't know. I mean, I assume you know them. Yeah.
Yes. Reid Hoffman was my vice president of business development at PayPal.
Yeah.
24 years ago.
Does he seem nervous to you?
Yeah, I mean, he's terrified of a Trump victory.
If he loses, man, what? You're fucked, dude.
I'm fucked. If he loses, I'm fucked.
It does seem that way. You can't just be like, yo,
Yeah, I'm like, how long do you think my prison sentence is going to be? Do you think? Well, I see my children. I don't know.
Because it's not like you can say, well, yeah, I maxed out to him, but I get.
I have no plausible deniability. No, and I've been trashing Kamala nonstop.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, folks.
Well, he's even more awkward than I thought he was.
Oh, I saw a recent.
He's like autistic. He can't, like, I don't know what's wrong with him. Did you hear any of like his spaces? Him talking on spaces?
A little bit. I can't.
He's not like an intellectual at all.
No. Mm-mm.
Honestly, whoever told him he should do public speaking should be jailed. Because it's like, I feel like empathetic, like secondhand, like I'm cringing for him when I see him speak, especially with the stuff he's doing now, where he's like going up there and like stumping for Donnie and like actually giving public speaking a shot. I'm like, dude, you're terrible at this. Like, why? Who told you like you're good at this? And the problem with someone as influential as Musk is that he's probably surrounded by people who are just saying yes to everything and saying he's amazing at everything. And he probably doesn't have anybody around him who's saying like, hey, you look like a huge fucking nerd when you went on that stage with Trump and everybody's laughing at you. You should probably just hang it up. There's no voice in the room that's serving that purpose.
No, it's all like it's all like self-aggrandizement. It's actually kind of like shameless and stupid. This is breaking news. This came out like 2 minutes ago. Apparently, Stacey Williams went on CNN, and it's a coincidence.
What do you say
out 2 weeks before the election
to those critics that say this is politically motivated?
I can't control when that documentary comes out. I can't control the fact that it's premiering 2 weeks before the election.
And she says she could not stay silent any longer.
It takes a lot of guts, and you have to really prepare yourself to be ready for that onslaught. And I'm ready now. Just bring it.
And despite her saying that the timing so close to the election and choosing to speak out is coincidental, in our interview, she does make her support for Harris very clear, in addition to not wanting to see Trump retake the White House.
Hold on. What is happening with this woman's face? I'm sorry, it's distracting me.
A lot of Botox.
There's like she's got the eye of the Pfizer or something. What is happening there? Like
the eyes of the Pfizer. It's probably fillers. Fillers make your pull your face in different directions.
She's just like asking her questions like this, and I'm like, is there a tiger behind you, ma'am? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, so it sounded like they mentioned a documentary. I thought this
I
was
guess,
just.
I guess the documentary is coming out. Yeah, I don't know.
Wow. So they're ready to go 2 weeks before the election with a documentary already out of production and ready to launch. Because I thought it was just like an article in The Guardian. Now that there's a documentary, that makes it sound all the more fishy to me and weird.
It does seem very. I think it would be funny if it somehow got. Imagine if it somehow got delayed and Trump won, and it came out like a week after Trump won. That'd be perfect.
Right.
No, it's just I mean, the problem is like the cynicism of the whole affair is undeniable. You know, it's like we're using this for political means, and it's at a time where, you know, the narrative currently is that, you know, Kamala's losing and Trump is gaining. Democrats panicking. I saw a video of David Pakman basically like coping and seething over Kamala's numbers in Georgia, is it? I think it was Georgia. Yeah, it looked like, you know, Trump's doing good in Georgia, and he was trying to like prime his audience for like.
I don't think Kamala wins. I don't think there's a way Kamala wins this. I'm kind of serious.
It's really difficult to see. And they thought that she was going to get Georgia. So Georgia was such a big piece of their puzzle for so long, and assumed that, you know, Stacey Abrams would just magically bring, you know, the voters. But I mean, Georgia's Georgia. It's always going to be Georgia no matter what. And they will go blue every now and then. And the cities and big suburbs have Democrats elected, but holy crap, the whole state is very red. Incredible.
She's already.
And in addition,
she can't answer like actual questions. Like, watch, like this is just really pathetic. Actually,
is there something you can point to in your life, political life, or in your life in the last 4 years that you think is a mistake that you have learned from?
I mean, I've made many mistakes. And they range from, you know, if you've ever parented a child, you know, you make lots of mistakes too. In my role as vice president, I mean, I've probably worked very hard at making sure that I am well versed on issues, and I think that is very important. It's a mistake not to be well versed on an issue and feel compelled to answer a question.
Is there something you can point to in your life, political life, or in your life in the last 4 years that you think is?
I'm shocked how like dumb she is. I actually am.
She should have just
as soon
been
as
like,
you ask it about a specific policy issue sometimes, because I'm going to want to research it. I'm going to want to study it. I'm kind of a nerd sometimes, I confess.
That's contradictory, because she just said her greatest weakness was being too well informed, and then she's saying she's not well informed enough to speak extemporaneously.
She eats herself
It's like
up. It's actually kind of funny.
She failed the one quintessential job interview question that we've all had to answer. You guys already know what question it is. Where it's like, what's your weakness? And everybody's like, I work too hard, or like, I care too much.
I don't
It's
delegate
like-
enough.
Yeah, and I mean that as someone who has managerial experience, it's what you're essentially looking for is just for them. Are you self-reflective enough to be able to point out an actual flaw? And you can follow it up by being like, I'm trying to work on this and I'd like to get better at it. But like, she's essentially giving that answer. Like it's pretty bad. She should have just been honest and been like, look, I drank on the job every day throughout
No,
the whole vice presidency.
She has to be on like 5 things of Xanax. I don't know what.
She's like, I have been drunk since '76, guys. I have not sobered up.
Do you think something like that can win? You really think something like that? I don't think she can win. Like, at least like Obama was articulate. She can't talk.
Yeah, here's the thing.
Biden was at least like, even Biden was like more, like, made more sense in 2020. I'm serious. Biden made more sense than her in 2020 than she does now. It's like it's becoming more dumb. The candidates are becoming more retarded.
I'm gonna be honest. I think at this point it almost feels deliberate. She is running the shittiest campaign, and it feels almost on purpose at this point. Because every single
worst I've seen.
Every single time.
It's one of the worst campaigns I've ever seen.
Right. Every single time she seems to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. I don't know how else to categorize it. It's like there were so many easy dunks where she is just tanking, and there's no reason why she should be tanking. I mean, we obviously get why she's dog shit on Israel, because any major candidate is going to be dog shit on Israel. I mean, the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu prefers Trump because she's not in the bag for Israel enough, even though her administration is currently funding this slaughter, it speaks volumes. But the rest of the shit, I mean, and it speaks, I'm sure everybody has seen, this cavalcade of like the worst demons on earth endorse Kamala Harris. Dick Cheney endorses Kamala Harris to the point where even Jon Stewart's on air asking Tim Walz, like, hey,
what the fuck are you doing?
What is with the Cheney stuff? Do we have to do this? Like, why are you doing this?
Like, honestly.
What is going through your coconut head? And it's just this endless barrage of like 200 Republicans endorse Kamala Harris, and now the breaking Bill Gates endorses Kamala Harris, and you have all of these like awful figures endorsing Kamala Harris, and it's like, Jesus Christ, like, the cynical part of me is like, is this supposed to be deliberate? I know this is all professional wrestling, and there's no like actual credibility to this Kibaki theater.
So I read a piece a little while ago about how, first of all, she is a truncated campaign. So there was a lot less time for her, and she didn't think that she was going to take like a big role in the Biden Kamala campaign. So then she gets called up, and the consultants that would normally work with people are sitting on their hands because it is a bunch of, and this is what the article is saying, is a bunch of white people who felt like they couldn't tell the black vice president how to behave. And that's really what a consultant needs to do, is to tell you how to behave so that you can win. And they just couldn't do it because of this politically correct kind of way that the political class goes about their business now. It's made it so they're paralyzed.
Interesting. That's a really good perspective, because that makes a lot of sense too. Because I mean, a lot of these interviews, you're just watching them and you're like, what the fuck are you saying? Like, just don't say anything. Just walk away. Just leave the interview. Like, you just lost the 3 supporters who are going to vote for you. Congratulations.
She's literally out here admitting that we have to accept genocide as a fact. Hold on. Like, genocide is now a given, and that you have to accept genocide in order to lower the price of your groceries. I haven't done it yet as vice president. We have to accept Gaza genocide as a trade-off for affordable groceries.
Not voting at all because of...
That's quite literally is what she's saying here. Watch.
What do you say to voters who are thinking about supporting a third-party candidate or staying on the couch, not voting at all because of this issue?
Listen, I am not going to deny the strong feelings that people have. I don't know that anyone who has seen the images who would not have strong feelings about what has happened, much less those who have relatives who have died and been killed. And I know people and have talked with people. So I appreciate that. But I also do know that for many people who care about this issue, they also care about bringing down the price of groceries. They also care about our democracy and not having a president of the United States who admires dictators and is a fascist. They also care about the fact that we need practical, common sense solutions from a leader who is willing to work across the aisle on behalf of the American people and not themselves. They want a president who cares about a fundamental freedom to make decisions about your own body, understanding that we're not trying to change anyone's belief, but let's not have the government telling women what to do with their body.
That is the most horrific thing you could have ever said. I don't think that, yeah, they care about genocide. That's good. They care about the Holocaust, but they also care about abortion and a president who wants to work with Republicans. Apparently, that's the thing that they want.
I don't think they know what people want because that's not what people want.
No, they have no clue. They have absolutely no clue.
No. That's offensive.
Yeah.
So the first thing I read is this has been a trend with her. It's and I gotta say she's probably envious of Trump and the Republican team because they don't have to do this kind of dishonesty. They can just be like, no, Israel, 100%. We're gonna go in and finish the job. I love Bibi Netanyahu. I have a tramp stamp of his face. They can just go full blown with it. But the Democrats, if you'll notice, this was nothing more than a pivot. That's all this was. They pressed her, and she does this every single time when it comes to Gaza. They press her on the issue, and she just immediately pivots to something else. She doesn't make any comments about it. The most she'll say is, oh, the images, it's horrible, and yeah, it's very bad. But here's a shiny thing over here. Go look at this. I'm going to jingle some keys. Hey, Democrats, here's some keys over here. Look at the keys. Look at the keys. Look at the keys. It's like your cat.
That's a good point.
I've never
That
seen
is
a
real good
campaign.
point.
I've never seen a campaign this bad.
She does that pivot every time. You're so right. Every time she does that pivot, she says, "Here's the keys. Look at the keys," and she's got one issue that she makes the keys. Okay, so it's cheaper groceries, but then she goes off every time on a laundry list of anything that just comes to mind. It's just like Mad Libs. It's like, so you want cheaper groceries, and you would like abortion, and you would like us to work with Republicans. It's just like the things that we're on their whiteboard that we're basically like, sell these things to the voters because we're not sure how to sell them, and she's just remembering it.
Yeah, she's essentially
she always pivots to the two-state solution part.
Well, it's always every single time. It's always the same kind of play. The strategy is stop thinking about this. Okay, we're talking about Gaza now. I need you to think about this other thing over here. And cheaper groceries. Obviously, that's something that affects working class and middle class. Well, there isn't a middle class anymore. Working class families. It's like, yeah, everything's ridiculously expensive. I guess we'll think about that insecurity now. But it also doesn't work because idiots like me are pointing it out. I see this every single time this is brought up. She's just like, yeah, but what about the monkeys at the zoo? What about season 4 of Desperate Housewives? Like, it's whatever, right? It's just like, go think about this other thing. It's I don't see how this is landing on anybody, and I don't think it is.
As president, what would you do to ensure not another Palestinian dies due to bombs being funded by U.S. tax dollars?
So I will say, and I think this is to your point,
They pre-selected these questions, so she knows the questions going ahead. I hope you know.
Which is interesting because that feeds a little
Far
bit
too many
further into
innocent
my
Palestinian
theory.
civilians have been killed. It's unconscionable. And
Mhm.
we are now at a place where, with Sinwar's death, I do believe we have an opportunity to end this war, bring the hostages home, bring relief to the Palestinian people, and work toward a two-state solution where Israel and the Palestinians in equal measure have security, where the Palestinian people have dignity, self-determination, and the safety that they so rightly deserve.
The question is, as president, what would you do to ensure not another Palestinian dies due to bombs being funded by U.S. tax dollars?
So
Yeah. So again,
I
really
will
nothing.
say, and I think this
really
is
nothing at all. None of this means anything.
Mm-hmm.
This is all kind of just show and play. I'm just at awe of, like, we're 2 weeks away, and this is really bad, like really, really bad.
It seems like, I mean, this has been my theory from day one. It feels like they're in a competition to see who can lose, not who can win. Because Trump's running a dog shit campaign too. Neither of them are running a good campaign. Like, why are you? Hey, I'm gonna get up here and I'm gonna talk about Arnold Palmer's dick for 10 minutes. Like, what are we doing, man? What are we doing? What is happening? Like, what? Eating the cats and the dogs? Like, where are we, guys? What are we doing?
There's too many.
And also, not for nothing, but I'm sorry. Like, this whole, like, Trump going out of his way to explain to people that he definitely doesn't understand how fucking tariffs work is incredible too. Because even normal people at this point are like, what? Wait, hold on.
I forgot about that. Do you want to bring that up?
Yeah. Let's. I'll take the reins on this one just because.
Yeah, I don't have any any other things to add. You should just go over.
Yeah, I'll just bring a bit of a master class to it a little bit as a tariff.
Let's just finish out with the we'll do the tariff, Trump, and then the other article. I know that's it, right?
The article?
No, what was the article?
The article I wrote. Right. Yeah. I knew that. I was testing you guys. I was testing to make sure everybody was paying attention. I definitely didn't forget I wrote.
I wasn't super familiar with the topics, so I don't know. It's kind of bullshitted this one.
It's okay. You got a lot going on with the rash you're dealing with. I got
a rash. Yeah.
He's got a really bad rash on his lower. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But he's got some cream for it. He'll be okay. It's just stop sleep. You gotta stop sleep. You gotta stop sleeping in dumpsters, man. I'm telling you, like it's. Anyway, so Jack Posobiec seems pretty knowledgeable in the MAGA camp, but I don't know what to do with this, and anyone who reads for more than 5 minutes might not know what to do with it either. Breaking: Trump is now considering using tariffs to fully fund the government and abolish the income tax completely. Pray for this man now.
No one understands how retarded this is. No one gets it.
I mean, here's the thing, though. I would use this response too. Pray for this man now, but maybe in a different way. Because I'm praying for Trump, but it's because of the fact that he's floating this fucking idea at all. So everybody. A quick lesson on how reality works, just for people who aren't dialed into tariffs. I don't blame you. Again, we're not.
Did you take an economics class in high school? That's all you need, really.
Yeah, but some people were asleep or high during it or playing World of Warcraft. I don't judge. But okay, here's how tariffs work. Because the way Trump talks about tariffs. the way Donald Trump talks about tariffs is he talks about it as some sort of like money siphon, like a spell you cast on another country, and you like get money from them. That's not how tariffs work. Here's how tariffs work. First off, the country they're placed on doesn't negatively affect them at all. They are not paying money to the country that is inflicting the tariffs upon them. That's not how this works. What happens with a tariff is it is a tax that is placed on goods from a country. So it affects people in the country that is placing the tariffs. I have to explain this because a lot of people I'm noticing are not understanding how this works.
It's a sales tax.
Yes, exactly. Perfect reference. And just like a sales tax, you can probably imagine who this is actually going to affect. It is not going to affect businesses because the businesses are not just going to shoulder the cost of that. What they're going to do is they're going to place the cost on the consumer. So when he talks about getting rid of, first of all, it's kind of a paradox because if you're getting rid of income tax, okay, but then the consumer is paying the difference essentially with costs that are passed down from businesses. What really are you doing? First problem. Second problem, this is from a country that doesn't really produce a lot anymore. I don't know about you, but I'm up here in Canada, and 90% of the shit that I have has this made in label on it, and it doesn't say made in America. It doesn't say made in Canada. It says made in China. So you can imagine the catastrophic inconveniencing that is going to affect the working class here, because if he's considering doing this for China of all countries, then the cost of virtually everything from that country is going to go up for you. And people are like cheering for this. And his argument is essentially that like, oh, well, this will force people to kind of, buy American and, so on and so forth. But first off, that can't happen overnight. This is gonna result in like a long-term, like considerable shift back to America, first of all. And second of all, like, I'm sorry, but can America really afford to be in a trade war right now? The answer is no. We can't up here. We absolutely cannot, and we're doing the same bullshit. Okay. You guys hear me?
Your mic's breaking out.
You guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. We can't do it up here in Canada because and we just did it with electric cars. We put a big tariff on it, and all it does is make shit more expensive at a time that everybody's complaining about shit being expensive. So the problem is most people don't understand this, and they're going to go vote for this guy, and they're going to expect these big bag tariffs to like do something for their material conditions, and all they're going to do is worsen them. So
that's right. But I don't think he means it anyway. I think that he just kind of threw that out there as the last bunch of spaghetti that's going to hit the wall. And it's just something to like rile people up and be like, woohoo,
Well, yeah, that's the thing too that people don't understand. I mean, we all shit on politicians like Obama, Trudeau, Biden.
I'm an opportunity hater of all politicians.
Yeah. Yes. Well, the majority of people, the majority of people kind of, when they think of broken promises, they don't think of Trump to the degree that he did break promises, but he's no different. There was no wall. There was no draining of the swamp. There was no locking her up. There was no all the stuff he said he was going to do. It kind of just fell by the wayside. All you got was just standard conservative governance. There was nothing groundbreaking about it.
Well, and it wasn't even super conservative enough for conservatives to be happy with it. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't. It was the kind of leadership or whatever. It was the kind of administration that everybody hated for a different reason, but because Russiagate was going on, there were people who were like, well, who were like me and were like, don't start this shit with the Cold War again. Let's not have that. And there were other people who were like super attached to Trump because they felt like he was an underdog. He was unfairly pursued by all of these people for so long. So it was like, we didn't even get to do anything really during that whole administration because it was all either Russiagate or COVID.
Yeah. And, it just goes to show that, when you take, this has always been my argument for the West in general, when it comes to the major two parties, liberal or conservative, when you remove the rhetoric, and I've always felt like the reason there's so much rhetoric is for this purpose. When you remove the rhetoric, you realize there's really not a lot of oxygen between these two factions. You're getting essentially the same thing. One of them is going to tell you that it's not giving you the same thing, and the other is going to tell you you're getting this thing and you're going to like it. And I mean, that's essentially it. But like nothing fundamentally. I'll put it this way: I have been undefeated in assuring everybody every single election of my life that nothing's fundamentally going to change, and I've yet to be wrong. When Hillary lost and my friends and family were in mourning, so to speak, because they thought it was the end of the world, I was like, yeah, shit's probably just going to progressively get worse the same way it has been for your entire lives, and nothing much else, probably. And that happened, and then Biden got in, and then my conservative friends were losing their minds, and I'm like, yeah, I still think things are just going to progressively get worse, and I don't think anything insane is really going to happen that wouldn't have happened either way. And then it happened.
I think something insane is going to happen, though, and I think that it's going to be related to this BRICS summit, because we're going to lose the petrodollar in the United States, which is the whole Bill Clinton administration. All of that wealth was built on financialization. Mm-hmm. And the petrodollar is what does that. You take that away from the U.S. and we are screwed, dude. We don't. There's no there. There's no foundation. There's no, like you said. There's no industrial base to start making our stuff, and you take that petrodollar away, which is our financialized economy, and we don't have the ability to even buy the basics that we would need to freaking run. I mean, like, that's looming, and no one really knows how that's going to play out, but I really feel like that's the stalking horse here. It's not Kamala, it's not Trump. It's like, what the hell is going to go on with the petrodollar? Because that could really, murder us.
It's already done. It's expired.
Yeah,
exactly. No, it's already. And there's nothing backing the fake current. That's all that really. It's going to take time for that to collapse, but.
And that's kind of why. And that's kind of why I have that theory cooking in my head where it almost seems like they're both in a competition to lose, because it's like, who would want this job for the next 4 years? What are you going to oversee? Like Nero in Rome? You're going to oversee the collapse of an empire? Because it doesn't matter who's in that office. Shit's about to get horrible. And unless there's any semblance of a extremely radical plan to deal with this, then, like, you're about to witness the empire essentially fall to its knees. And you're going to be the person at the helm for that? Because, like, you know, if you're the person at the helm, it doesn't matter what the reality is. Most people are just going to look at you. They're going to see how shitty everything is, and they're going to connect the dots. Most people don't think past that. There's no cursory processing aside from that. So,
yeah, you'll be blamed for all of the stuff that you couldn't control, having to do with the economy. So you get to be the punching bag, or that person gets to be the punching bag. Maybe that's why they chose Kamala in the first place. Like,
oh my god.
Kamala, I really think my theory is that Kamala's like a big fuck you from Biden.
Yeah.
I don't think I really don't. They really did not want Kamala. Behind the scenes, when that was happening, they really did not want Kamala, and Kamala was upset. She was really, really upset, and I think Joe Biden was like upset that he was getting cooed and being pushed out. And I don't think he was supposed to endorse Kamala, but then he did.
This is an interesting question. Hey there, Gray Bright. What will the fall of the empire objectively look like? I think about this a lot. This is a bit of opium just from me, and it's a great segue into my live reading of the article that I totally didn't forget I wrote. But I think what's eventually going to happen is people's material conditions are going to degrade to the point where revolution is not only a priority, it's a necessity. We're going to get to a point where people are going to stand up and say enough, not because they are activated enough to do so, but because they'll feel like they don't have any other choice. There is I can't not think there's a light at the end of this tunnel. But there's a possibility that shit is going to get very, very bad before that happens. And, you know, at the end of the day, there's no voting our way out of this. Which is a perfect segue. 6 out of 10 segue, to be honest. Kind of just jammed that in there, but
I like that segue.
Well, thank you. I consider myself a segwayologist, if you will.
A seguist.
A seguinist.
A seguitarian.
A seguosaurus. Yes, seguosaurus. Like Stegosaurus. Perfect. Anyway, I do want to finish things off and leave a little bit if we have it for discussion, but I did want to do a live read of an article I wrote yesterday because I felt like it was about time to kind of you know, sometimes you come to a point where you feel like you have enough that you've pondered that you can, you know, put pen to paper, so to speak, or greasy fingers to keyboard, if it will. Anyway, this is Embracing a Post-Voter World. The futility of Western electoralism and how to replace it. It's election season for America, which means that if you reside in the West or spend any significant amount of time on social media or streaming platforms, you're undoubtedly exposed to a feverish deluge of strong opinions over who's going to save America or end it, whatever that means. You have at present two major political factions who seem nearly collaborative in their efforts to convince the masses how different they are from one another, for better or for worse. You have politics junkies and content creators from all ends of the digital universe proclaiming with a fervor normally reserved for pastors and used pickup truck salesmen that this is truly the most important election of our lifetime. Trademark. This is interesting, given that practically every Western political faction has claimed this for every election cycle I've been alive and paying attention to. Evidently, election importance seems to scale in perfect lockstep inversely with the decline of our material conditions. Yet, despite this, here we are in 2024, with most of us seeing no escape from the crumbling empire that is the West, outside of writing a name on a piece of paper, slipping it into a shoddy-looking box, and praying that whatever person is appointed to lead will achieve at least 10% of what they promise to deliver if we write their name on that paper. So, how do we get like this? It's a question any sane person has undoubtedly at the very least thought of before. Time and time again, we support these political factions, only to watch them rise to power and shirk the vast majority of their proposed responsibilities in favor of agendas that seem to benefit a relatively tiny group of the most powerful among us. Further still, due to the questionable nature of our electoral system, we often find ourselves supporting one faction of lesser evil or another, because we let that same group of powerful individuals convince us that if we don't, a greater evil will take power. There are of course alternatives, but the majority of the population would never risk lending these alternatives their support, because that means potentially compromising support for the more popular, lesser evil faction, and thus taking the country in a less than desirable direction. Worse still, whenever a viable alternative to these far from ideal lesser evils appears to gain prominence, they seem doomed to sabotage, inner or outer, in occasionally spectacular fashion. Take the American Green Party this election season, who, after gaining considerable popularity, proceeded to alienate its base of supporters in an almost choreographed manner, mere weeks before an election that could have seen them achieve historically high numbers in support. Year after year, decade after decade, we dust ourselves off and fight the good fight, with only a steadily worsening civilization to show for it. What's the definition of the insanity again?
Hey, what was the thing that the Greens did? With the vice president guy? What was that thing that pissed everybody off?
So he essentially regurgitated like essentially CIA propaganda about like the Uyghur genocide thing in.
That's right. Yeah.
In China, which has been, I don't need to tell the audience this, but this has been debunked like a million times at this point. Like,
Yes.
What are you doing in 2024? There's,
Yes.
and I'll be the first one to say, because a lot of the criticism was like, well, you just think China's perfect. No, it's a very simple formula. Valid criticisms about a country are fine. Incorrect criticisms about a country are not helpful. Also, for a party that pretty much rests the whole horse on being anti-imperialist, if you're repeating imperialist propaganda, then what fucking good are you? What are you doing? Why are you here? What is your purpose? So I personally think it was deliberate, because if there's any point in time where the Greens had a shot at getting that 5%, probably would have been this election. They're the only option offering an actual opposition to the genocide in Gaza, which is something we all care very much about. And their policies made the other two parties' policies look like dog shit. Every single one of them did.
Leave it up to Butchware to fuck it all up.
You could say he butchwared the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like butchered, but butchwared. It didn't work completely, but I'm just gonna, like a white man, I'm going to confidently move forward regardless. Anyway, the next part, the illusion of democracy. The truth that we seem unwilling to grasp with any finality is something that becomes very evident when you stop seeing the forest from the trees. We don't live in an actual democracy. From first past the post voting severe limitations to lobbying that's become so severe that billionaires are literally buying elections, it's time to accept that any road that would be open to allowing the people of a Western nation any agency whatsoever over the direction they wish for it to take has been closed for a long time. Once we accept that our politicians are little more than mascots for the checklist of bourgeois whimsy, everything starts to make a lot more sense. This is no more evident than when you examine the affiliations our elected officials have with corporations and organizations who stand to gain from their policy changes, and it becomes crystal clear when you then pair that with what actions the officials do end up taking. Just look at AIPAC, a pro-Israel lobby in America. For a very unpopular humanitarian crisis that Israel is causing directly, you'd think at least one of these political factions would want to garner favor with the masses by doing something about it. However, we can observe little more than hollow sympathy and complete inaction concerning the matter. However, when you research the amount of money that your average American politician has accepted from this group, any doubt about the dots connecting is nigh impossible to ignore. You then need to understand that this is also the case for the majority of moneyed interests, and will undoubtedly arrive at the conclusion that the overwhelming interest of our democratically elected politicians lies in the whims of those with more wealth than any of us could ever dream of. Wood chipper, all three of these guys, one day, just planting seeds.
Gulag.
Yeah. Make the fries.
Make the fucking fries.
After the revolution, these guys are all making the fries.
Hell yeah.
I'd like to get off the ride, please. The only real explanation for us continuing to tolerate this madness is the belief most of us hold that our voice still matters to some extent, and that our vote can somehow produce meaningful change. At this point, there's no real reason to continue maintaining this belief, which is why the corporate-owned media apparatus in the West invests so heavily in reinforcing this belief. We're told on a daily basis, from every screen we own, by a chorus of shrill voices about how important democracy is, and how much our participation in a system that is objectively rigged against us really matters. It doesn't. And there's ample evidence to suggest that it hasn't for our entire mortal lives. And the only way out of this mess is for this sentiment to become not only popular, but mainstream. We all speak of direct action, general strikes, protests, mass civil disobedience, and, yes, revolution. However, what we're truly lacking is a class divide that is not discussed as widely as we need it to be, and that is belief in democracy. How much more successful would organizing and achieving solidarity be among a people who overwhelmingly believed that not only is our democracy deeply flawed, but a parody of the very word itself? How much more willing would we be to link arms with our proletarian brethren if we knew direct action was the only avenue for meaningful change in this idiocracy sequel of a world we're toiling away in? The only way we move forward and afford ourselves any hope of a fairer future than today or yesterday is to just let go. By letting go of this false investment of our time, money, energy, and emotions, we free ourselves up for taking the fight where it always should have been taken, to the only real political faction in the Western world. Think of politicians like customer service agents, who, despite having absolutely no control over how the company they work for manages its products or services, and no, your feedback is not passed along, just trust me on this, are paid a salary to serve as a punching bag for validly disgruntled customers who feel cheated out of their ever-shrinking wallets. Our politicians are there to take the hits for what largely amounts to taking orders from those whom they truly are public servants for. We yell at Trudeau or Biden or Trump because they're the face of the actions our governments are taking. What they are not, though, is the mind, body, or soul of these actions. That would be the capitalists they are eternally beholden to. Once we liberate our fellow brothers and sisters from the shackles of delusion, we can take the fight to the faction that is truly running the show and ignore the pro wrestling show that plays out every day for our own amusement and horror. Once the oxygen that electoralism sucks out of revolutionary action returns to the people, myriad avenues of action open up for a population finally willing to accept that it has to grind the machine of capital to a halt of its own will. Who knows? Just the sight of such a solidified and awakened labor force may be enough to bring the capitalist class and its ghoulish political thralls to its knees. We will never know for sure, though, as long as we maintain the erroneous notion that our fates belong in the hands of political factions. Reject the system. Not just the two-party system, but the entire system. We have spent enough time and energy thinking emotionally when we live in a time and place where we must be thinking wisely. Our only recourse is to take the future into our own hands, because if we don't, we may not have much of one to leave to future generations. And see.
Nice landing. Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, that's essentially where I feel like we're at. That's at least where I'm at. I kind of flirted with the idea back and forth a little bit over the last year or so of like, you know, maybe the Greens are good. You know, up here in Canada, maybe NDP will do something. You know what? At the end of the day, like, I had to just let go. I'd be doing myself a disservice. I would be doing my audience a disservice. I would be the people subjected to my massive shit posts on Twitter a disservice. We're not going to vote our way out of this. And the space electoralism takes essentially just keeps people sucked into this fucking system. Because we all talk about direct action, about organizing general strikes, about, you know, setting up mutual aid networks, about, you know, moving halfway across the country and building stuff like Yeti's doing now. But we'll talk about that. But at the end of the day, everybody just spends all of their time focused in just fighting this fight that doesn't have a winner.
And factionalizing ourselves in the process. So we find new divisions while ignoring, I liked where you said ignoring the class divisions. We need to call back upon those and set down all of these other little teeny tiny artificial reasons that we can come up with to not have solidarity with people. You know, workers is good people, and we need to, you know, find a way to all have power together.
It's a form of it. People enjoy fighting and spectating. Yeah. This election season, it's a fever for a reason. You know, people get obsessed.
I'm only sharing this.
You see that like stupid white guy like Dean going out and like defending Kamala or whatever. Like they just get these basic white guys like Harry Sisson to go out there and show for them and start fights with other people, and that gets started. It's all manufactured. It's circus for a reason.
100%.
And they have to keep you sucked into that because they don't. And I feel like that might even be the purpose of the Green Party. For people disillusioned with the two-party system, it's like, oh, put all your energy into this instead. Don't get any ideas outside of writing on a piece of paper and praying that the election fairy is going to come shit out healthcare on your head. No. Don't get any radical ideas there. Don't start organizing. Oh, holy shit. Is that Hegemony Crickets? Oh, hey, what's up? Sorry, I'm just catching up on the comments. Yeah, at the end of the day, like, here's the thing, too. I'm not even vote shaming people. Well, no, I call them vote pigs, and I share a meme on Facebook. I guess I am vote. You know what? I gotta walk the disclaimer I just made back and make another disclaimer for the disclaimer I just made. I don't personally care if you hold on. I don't care if you vote, but I'm going to shame you for. No, that's not good either. One sec. Okay. No, I'm completely in a corner. Okay. Fuck it. Yes, I do care. Take 3. I do care if you vote. Okay? I do care if you vote, but I'm not going to shit on you if you decide, like, you know what, I'm going to write my shit on a piece of paper. It's 20 minutes out of my day. You know, I know some people where they have election booths like in their condo building. So it's like, if you're just passing by and you're going to write some shit
I
on
would
paper.
only do it if it's convenient. I would only do it if it's convenient.
Yeah, go nuts. Go nuts. Like, that's not the problem.
The
problem is,
I would shame you if you go out of your way, like if you like wait on like a long ass line to go vote. Like then I'm shaming you. Then I'm like, dude, you're an idiot.
shit, never mind. Tony Bananas is like, we need to vote shame. I'm changing it up. We are vote shaming. We are now vote shaming.
It's contextual. Not all of them, not everybody. We're just vote shaming some people. Who
the people
voting way too much.
The people who you've all seen this tweet where it's like, I'd crawl through glass to vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah, like what?
Are you a baby? I don't think you're old enough to vote if you're talking about a politician with this like amorous energy behind you. No, the point is,
video game. It's in life's a video game. It's kind of crazy.
The point is, you shouldn't think. There's two fundamental flaws I feel like people make. The first is that change ends at the voting booth. So if you just go vote for someone and your person wins, that's the amount of action you can take. And two, that, you know, this is a process you need to spend a lot of time on. It isn't. Go look at the candidates. If you're going to vote, go look at the candidates. Don't think about it. Just go vote on that day and just be done with it. But for the rest of your time, and this is where everybody gets trapped, because they all get caught up in this election season and all they fucking do is nothing but just run around and try and get their team to win. You should be thinking of ways to enact change on your own, because the only way we're going to get change is if we do it on our own. And the only way we're going to do that is if we convince the majority of people that, listen, voting's not going to get you what you want. Okay, the whole system's rigged. The politicians are bought and paid for. Up here in Canada, they absolutely fucking are. I mean, the World Economic Forum's penetrated half our political parties, for Christ's sake.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys want to learn more about the World Economic Forum, check out that Maple Files episode.
So yeah, I feel like the higher up the ticket you're voting, the less you're actually doing. So it's like trying to win the Super Bowl lottery, you know, that is a gajillion to one that anyone's going to win it. As opposed to voting in local elections where it's people, you know, right where you live. And that's like putting your name in a raffle, you know, to get, I don't know, tickets to the movies or something, rather than $1 billion. It's lower stakes, but you actually have more power in it. It affects you more closely, and and your vote means a hell of a lot more. It so happens that I think that the issues that we care about most, like wars, especially what's going on in Israel with Gaza and everything right now, the big stuff is so far out of our reach, and it might even be out of the reach of the freaking people who are running for president. We don't know if they're like there is no member of Congress who isn't on the AIPAC payroll, not one. No. So is there even a possibility that something different could happen? I don't know. Like maybe some sort of natural catastrophe. I could like hope for that, you know, like earthquake or something. But I don't know, you know.
Before the election.
A what?
Kamala and Donald Trump are gonna die before the election.
They're gonna fuse together, into an entity called Gigabyte. That's gonna fight everybody. That was a reboot reference, kids. Here's the thing. The point I was trying to make in that article, and looking back, I could have made it a little better. You know, I might tweak it a bit. Who knows? That's what the edit feature's for. We kind of all get on some level. I feel like normies even understand on some visceral level that our politicians are essentially beholden to the billionaire class. So all I'm saying is, just take the fucking fight to them. If they're the ones actually in the driver's seat, ignore the politicians. Who cares? What hurt their bottom line? I've personally been in those meetings where they talk about quarter end profits and all this shit. They know when something's hurting their bottom line. They know when they're suffering. There is a legitimate anxiety over it because people lose their jobs. People get fucking reprimanded. Higher ups lose their bonuses. Like, this is like, you know, we need to start attacking capital because that's a response. Up here in Canada with the trucker convoy, people can say whatever they want about the trucker convoy, but I'll say this a million times. They hurt capital to the point where those mandates went away real fucking quick. And I saw it up here firsthand. I bared witness to it, to the point where our state-funded media had to make a disclaimer. The mandates are going away, parentheses, but it's not because of the truckers. That is a literal...
That.
Yeah.
I remember that. And, you know, they closed down trade between the two countries because they closed down that bridge. And the freaking Teamsters here in the U.S. were like, oh, they're not. This was literally what they said. Oh, they're not really workers. They're petty bourgeois because they own the rigs that they drive. And I'm like, that's company store stuff. That makes it even worse. And your union leaders saying this shit, you know, like that was the most successful labor action in my lifetime. The way that they changed the mandates up there and the way that it scared the shit out of them to the point where they were closing down people's bank accounts. You know, like they were
Oh my God. Trudeau literally fled Ottawa. He was that scared. He fled to an undisclosed location where he wouldn't tell anybody. And then I think 4chan found him in like five minutes or something. It was crazy. It was impressive weaponizing of autism. I will say that much. But
that's what 4chan is.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I remember when they did that thing with Shia LaBeouf where he's like,
I was gonna bring that up.
Yeah, they like left a flag at his door or some shit. I don't think he ever recovered from that. I think he's just broken. The thing is like the reason why that framing was so dishonest is because it wasn't just truckers. There were a ton of working class people there because, again, those mandates affected a ton of working class people. I know people who lost their jobs. I know more than a couple people who they had a situation essentially where you know, they were injured. You guys all get what I mean, I'm sure. And they didn't want to participate in another dose, if you will, and they had to get a new job because of it. So it was a lot of working class people too who did that. We need that.
A lot of nurses, a lot of teachers.
Oh God, so many.
Yeah. No, it was bad news. It was bad news in Canada. It was super bad news here, and you know, I'm still real active in these COVID circles and the vaccine injured people and. The sheer number of nurses who gave up the profession, just gave it up. You know, I was a 20-year nurse. I was a 30-year. I just retired. I just got out of it because I couldn't do it anymore. Unbelievable.
Yeah. No, for sure. And you know, like that's unfortunately how it went for a lot of people. My point is, that's the kind of action we need to take. And people need to be prepared. That is a perfect template to look at and expect what's going to come. If there is any significant threat to capital, whether it's over you know, protesting what Israel's doing in Gaza and now in Lebanon, and it's the greater Israel thing is in full swing. I think we can conclude that. Whether it's that or protesting your material conditions or protesting, you know, just late stage capitalism in general, to the point where it's like, we're all fucking tired of not eating. We want to eat. Doesn't matter what it is. You can expect the media to demonize you. Someone will probably throw out some kind of, you know, this is a fascist, Nazi, alt-right, blah, blah, blah. They're always going to play that card. You can expect at some point the mask of humanity will fall from capital, as it did up here, because, you know, the second it got to the second it inconvenienced the bourgeoisie enough, jackboots came out. You know, that poor disabled lady who got trampled by a horse for. So we have a formula. We know what to expect. So that's the way forward. Getting stuff like that going. It's not hoping that, you know, your third party is going to get 5%, so that maybe in 40 years they're going to be a viable third alternative to the two-party system, at which point they'll probably end up completely co-opted by the intelligence agencies anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, 100%. No, hit people where it hurts. It's always about the money, even if it doesn't look like it's about the money. It's about the money, and
always about the money.
Yeah, and use that damn trucker strike as the template.
That's the framework. I feel you have to. The only language our rulers speak is capital. The only language our rulers speak is profit. These are people who I have, coming at it from a psych angle, these are people who have a hole in themselves that will never get filled. That's a pronounced feature of a lot of cluster B disorders. There's always a pervasive feeling of emptiness that you're not able to fill. They fill it with wealth. They fill it with power. They fill it with everything that would help them maintain ego functions that normal people just do without a second thought. We need to hit those people there. That's how we get actual change. And I think mission number one needs to be breaking people out of this electoralism bullshit. Because I feel like once we do that, the road to a general strike, that's something that can happen. And to Shelley in the comments' point, she made a comment. I'm gonna try and find it. Here.
All right, I'm actually gonna get going, guys. You wrap up this stream.
Okay, sure. All right, man. We'll take care of your rash. I hope it dies down later. Remember what I said? Like,
have a good night, guys.
Cream twice a day, Greg. Twice a day. Okay.
Got it.
All right. Take care, warts. Anyway, as Shelley said, it's incredibly difficult to get people online to take action offline. Now, here's the thing. I feel like what we need to do, we need to stop trying to get people to get out and go places and start organizing structures where we can hurt capital in a way that A, doesn't necessarily identify anyone, and B, doesn't require any form of travel, because that can be really really challenging for a lot of people.
Yeah,
so
people don't want to do that, and they're already on social media where you're catching them. Then you got to be able to give them something here to do. Like that's Anonymous was really successful in what they did because it was all, it was all something that people could already use their skills that they already had at, doing something that really mattered.
Yeah. Like, here's the thing. For example, this is just an idea that I've been kicking around in my head, but you've got a massive workforce right now that works from home. Not just that, but we have the internet. so we can all organize, even people who don't work from home. A lot of people have sick days. A lot of people have personal days. A lot of people have vacation. Imagine coordinating that shit just as a start. Just to start it off. We're all going to take sick days or personal days or vacation at the same time. All of a sudden, oh my God, why is commerce just crawling? What's going on? And then we up the ante. We up the ante some more. I am convinced that all the ruling class needs is the threat of working class solidarity. I think all they need is the threat of a general strike, because just a threat is going to affect those corporations way harder than people think, because they need to project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They need to be wait.
It's got to be a credible threat. It's got to be directed, and it's not impossible. You know, they keep us apart artificially with all kinds of this identitarian bullshit, and I do think that people are finally freaking seeing through it. I was just telling somebody today that I never liked the terminology of woke. Like, it never really worked for me one way or the other. Like, I didn't like it as something to embrace, and I didn't like it as something to not embrace. It's just, I hated it. But it does describe, what it is that people are bristling against. And that's good, because what they're bristling against is the being compelled to be divided from other people who could help, bring power to the table. In other words, people are being told that we only like you as long as you're powerless and lonely and individual. You're not allowed to go and form an alliance with a bunch of different people that, hell, we might not agree with on everything, because reasons. And, that's just not good enough at all. A couple of months ago, maybe it was longer, maybe it was years, I made this decision. I thought about how I conduct myself online, and I've always been careful to use my name and be very clear about who I am online, because I want that to be boundaries for me, to set boundaries for me. I don't want to be the person online who's a total asshole all the time. And I'm not going to do that if my name is on things. And so the anonymity and anomie are related. And as long as people feel alienated and that they're in this alone, and that there's nobody else to fight next to them, we're all going to remain powerless. Oh yeah, here was the piece of that was I thought about how I would treat people in my neighborhood. Like if some dude just came up to when I'm walking the dogs, like if some dude comes up to me and is talking about his brand new nice MAGA yard sign or something, I'm gonna have that conversation. I'm not gonna be an asshole to somebody face to face. So why would I be an asshole to somebody on social media? And then I thought about, like, my in-laws, like half of my family, it really matters. The family that I married into, they don't vote the way I would vote. And plus they vote, which is a whole other thing that we just discussed. I can't be mad at them. I can't, harbor this ill will towards them because of the way that they vote. I remember what did this. It was years ago on Christmas, and my mother-in-law was very upset because the women that she played mahjong with, and the women that she made like scrapbook stuff with, were shunning her because she voted for Trump. And she was brokenhearted. She's a real social person. Like, I'd be like, thank God. But she was like, oh my God, what am I going to do without these people in my life? And it really made her sad. And I was just like, you know what? I got to kind of re-examine the way that I think about people and the way that they manage their political life, you know?
Well, it's kind of a product of, you know, you speak of what happened there, and it really is a product of the way the ecosystem is constructed. The fact that people can have such reactions to political decisions where they're losing family members and they're losing friends. And I know tons of people who have done that, where it's like, oh, you're supporting this mascot? Well, I guess we can't talk anymore. And it's like, first off, that's the wrong attitude to have. The right attitude should be, oh, you voted for Trump. Yeah, I get it. Democrats suck. I get it. But why do you think he's any better? What changed under his watch? I always frame it in a way of like, look, none of these people are on your side. You don't own a yacht. You don't have a private island. They're not working for you. They're going to give you crumbs. Don't you want more than crumbs? Because I want more than crumbs. Don't you? If so, then why are you investing all this energy in this? It's pointless. And you know, it actually does work on a lot of people, and it's kind of good like shake. You know how you gotta like, you shake someone a little bit. You're just like, hey, come back down to earth. It's a good way of kind of de-escalating it, where they're like, because 9 out of 10 times they'll agree with you. They'll go, yeah, I get it. They're politicians. Yeah, I know, but maybe they'll make things better. And then it kind of takes the temperature of the room down, and then you can speak to them and then be like, well, what I do is I'm like, here, I'm going to pass you this book. Just read this. Don't worry about who wrote it. Just, capital, just go for it. Don't worry about it. I'm not doing anything. But no, jokes aside, I feel like the best way to approach that is to just kind of get people out of those electoralism bubbles, because the fact that people are reacting this emotionally to political factions, and I get it. I get tribalism. I get that we're social animals. I get that we're part of a team. We want to be part of this team, and we get something out of that psychologically as social animals, because we're all working cohesively to achieve a common goal. I get that, but you can pivot that so easily to like direct action, to like fucking mutual aid, and now you're part of a team that's actually for you and your fellow man and your neighbors and your fellow working class people, not part of a team that's just going to be some inflatable fucking crash test dummy for some corpulent sociopath who stacks jet skis at his private cottage. This is something that'll actually speak to your material needs and advance your material interests. So, I feel like that's kind of the way I approach it, at least. But, at the end of the day, like, I think about that example you shared, and it's like, that's the first step. We have to get people to be less invested in this, because you should never be losing friends and family over Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Justin Trudeau or Keir Starmer, who's another great one.
Wow. Ugh. Or Kamala Harris. So none of these choices are good. None of those outcomes are worth any kind of damage to any sort of relationship. It's not, And I think that, but you know what I think the good news is I think that more people are adopting what you're talking about in that essay. Like I do some campaign work on the side, so I'm very familiar with the voter files in Florida counties, and the number of NPAs, which is what we call them, no party affiliations, is insane. Like it's a third And in most counties, it's at least a third. They're at least as big as the Democrats and the Republicans. And in some counties, there are more independents or MPAs than there are Democrats and Republicans. That is a new thing. That hasn't always been the case. So that means something. That means that people are moving away. And I think that people are moving away from voting generally. We're going to see lower turnout in this from certain people, from certain demographics of people, because non-voting is taking a stand. Non-voting is picking a candidate. It's picking a candidate who wasn't on the ticket, and I think a lot of people feel like that. That's when I was in college. That was the main way that Gen X kind of related to the world was, we don't vote, we don't care, we're not political, it all sucks, blah, and I was like an idiot trying to organize back then, and learned a lot, because there was like no help to do it. And I learned that in any group of 100 people who seem like they're totally disengaged, there's going to be 10 people. There's going to be a smaller unit that wants to do something, that wants to break off and make something work. And whether that's like, a mutual aid thing, finding a way to live off grid or whatever, whatever these visions are, I think people are ready to do it. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you mention that because I've said it before. I've said it on this show. I'm calling it. I think this election is going to be the lowest voter turnout in history, in American history. I will bet at least $1 on that. Maybe. Okay, $1. I will bet $1.50 on. But yeah, I don't think
sentiment. That's interesting. Yeah, because I haven't looked at that, like voter sentiment. I don't feel the urgency this election that I felt in 2016. Like people hated Hillary Clinton, either hated her or they loved her, and they hated her so much they really wanted to vote, or they loved her so much they really wanted to vote. And
I lost track of how many people are like, I don't even want to vote for Trump, but Hillary's going to start World War III. So
right.
I'm kind of just voting against the World War III. And a lot of people, it was a protest vote anyway, because they went through 8 years of Obama, which was hope and change that turned into like whatever the fuck that was, and just disappointment after disappointment. And then Trump comes in and he's like, I know a lot of people are like, I'm voting for him because I hope he fucks everything up so bad we're going to have to rebuild something that might actually work. That was a popular sentiment in 2016.
Yep. So yeah, a form of the biggest black pill.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I should probably roll, and the reason why I say that is I smell something burning in the oven.
Oh no! Yes, you absolutely
I need to go
should.
check on dinner.
That's all good. We got 2 hours going, so it's a good time to call it for sure. But yeah, this was a blast.
Yeah, I'm psyched. Yeah, this was a lot of fun, and yeah, zero preparation. We just sort of was like, oh, we'll do this, and this. I loved it.
Well, we
loved it.
Yeah, we usually prep during the week, just kind of throw together a doc and, just kind of like chip away. I'm a big chip awayer. That's one of the benefits of ADHD. You can multitask on a level that other people may die of a seizure from, which is kind of cool. It's a detriment as well because you are the most easily distractible human on the planet. But yeah, that's how we normally roll. And yeah, it was kind of just strung it together, made it work, and worked very well. So
Glad to join the sausage party.
a sausage party. No, you were right the first time. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was a delight, and everybody, thank you for tuning in. This is Politically Homeless, and we will we'll be back on. I remember when my show is. We'll be back on Tuesday, and yeah, check out the rest of the stuff on the network. Check out Brook if you haven't had a chance to, and most importantly, keep questioning everything.